Don't curse a storm. It comes to bring you back to your sanity. Number 6, storms expose weaknesses. There are some trees that look good until the hurricane came. You know those trees? They look beautiful, strong, big. All of a sudden, when they went over, you saw inside was rotten. There are people like that in this place. They look good. But when life hits them, bam, on the blind side, all the stuff you thought they were so strong in is exposed. Storms confirm how strong you are. No matter how much you claim you got faith, storms will test whether you get it or not. Storms reduce you to God again. That's why storms come. They come to reduce you back to God. Some people come so proud, they make so much money, they got all this stuff, all of a sudden, bam! God says, thank you very much. A storm comes to bring you right back down to God. Number 9, storms restore true value. I heard that testimony tonight of a gun to someone's head. And they called for the most valuable thing in their life. Half of the things you got, you don't use. The other half, you don't want. One pillar, one plate, one fork, spoon, knife, a pot, and some food. That's it. You don't need a TV in every room. You don't hardly be home to watch them anyhow. Come on, let's talk about this for a minute. You see, a storm will come to tell you what's valuable again, like your spouse and your children. I heard a man who was sick this year. I spoke to him yesterday. He says, Doc, I'm home with my children. He said, you don't understand. I was close to death door in October. And I promised God this Christmas, I ain't going nowhere. I can kiss my grandchildren again. I can talk to my son again. And he's 35. I'm going to have some time with my daughter, and she's 42. Why? They are valuable to me all of a sudden because I was almost dead. A storm will bring you back to what's important. Don't curse a storm. And in 2012, God's going to bring you back to what's important. And number 10, write it down. Storms remind us of our mortality. Storms will tell you you're going to die. Some folks just escaped death in a storm. You are sitting here today, some of you, by the grace of God. I mean, what you went through in 2012, in 2011 rather, you was at death's door. You are still standing. A storm will just remind you that you ain't all of that. That's why every time I meet somebody who's proud, I tell myself, Dad will take care of that. There's some folks who think they don't need nobody. Don't worry about that. Dad will take care of everything. So don't be cool around here. No, I ain't clapping. I ain't singing. You better sing. You ain't that cool, brother. That's why God brings storms into our lives, to reduce us back to our mortality, to realize that you ain't going to be here forever. I was speaking to Sister Andre. She's here tonight. I said, Andre, your father died just a few days before the new year. Could you imagine? He couldn't make it the next year. And I said, but he lived a good life. He poured his life into our country. You got no reason to be ashamed. He was a strong man who served our country. Sir Clifford Darling. I wonder what you're doing. A storm will come to remind you that in everything you gain, all you can take is a box. And all them clothes that you so cute, proud of, somebody else waiting for you to die, they're going to wear all your clothes. So you better get it straight in 2012 and get back to what's important. It's people and God and family and worship. Number 11, write this down. Storms deflate pride. There's some folks in here who you know. They never speak to you, you know. But they're speaking now. Why? Job gone, life gone, car gone, bicycle gone, everything gone. All of a sudden they want to be high, high, high. Storms will reduce you from your pride. Tell your neighbor, stay humble. And number 12, write this down. Storms point you to God. They take you back to divinity. I heard on CNN today, the weatherman came on. He said, you know, 2011 was a horrible year for the world in natural disasters. And then he said at the end, I wonder if man will ever be able to control nature. Never. Never. That house that you spent all that money on, one hurricane, roof gone. Where the roof gone? Jesus, the roof gone. Life is that fragile. And that's why 2012 must be a year that you learn how to handle storms. Write this down, the 10 purposes for a storm. What's the reason for a storm? Number one, they come to restore natural balance. Number two, they come to cleanse the environment. Number three, they come to remove pollution. There's some people in your life that storms will get rid of. Some folks only with you because you got money now, you know. But when your storm approaches hit you, everybody gone. And you find out who your true friends are. Everybody clap right there. You know who I'm talking about. All of a sudden, they gone. I call them pollution. Every time a hurricane leaves the Bahamas, the air is pure. The wind is clean. The water is beautiful. Why? Because hurricanes come to clean out pollution. Number four, storms come to expose decay. Number five, it comes to test your strength. Number six, it comes to maintain humility. Number seven, storms come to reduce life to the essentials. Number eight, storms come to test your foundation. A lady said to me the other day, she said, Pastor Miles, my light been off for 5 months. I said, what? She said, yep. And she said, I finally got back to getting used to lamp and candle. I said, my dear. She said, don't feel sorry for me. I forgot what it felt like to read by a kerosene lamp. God will send and allow storms to bring you back to the essentials. Don't curse the storm. Number eight, storms come to test your foundation. Number nine, they come to test your building code. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. There are a lot of homes in the Bahamas that didn't build by the code. You all know some of them. And when hurricanes come, hurricanes expose them right away. They're the first ones to go. Well, your life is that way. If you ain't built by God's code, when the storms of life come, we see you exposed. And number 10, storms come to give you a key. What's this key? I found the key. Matthew chapter 16, verse 19 says, I will give you what? The keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. And then he says, I will give you the secrets of the kingdom of God. Only you will have the secrets to be able to control the environment on earth. He's talking about kingdom people. Let's talk about one of these keys that I want to just share with you today. Matthew 7 says this, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on what? The rock. The rains came down, the streams rose up, the winds blew and put against that house, and yet it did not fall. Why? Because it had its foundation on the rock. Now, I want you to check the next verse. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who also built his house, but on sand. The rains came down and the streams rose up and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell with a great crash. Now, here's the point I want you to learn from this. And Jesus Christ is speaking something very important here. First of all, storms are natural to life. He's saying, look, they come to everybody. Sometimes we think, well, you know, I must be sinning because things getting tough. No. Storms come whether you're sinning or not sinning. Whether you build on sand or rock, the storms come to both houses. Write this down. Number 2, storms must be expected. Christ was saying, look, whether you're in a secure house or a shaky house, the storm don't care. It's coming. Expect the storms to come. Number 3, storms come to everyone. Sometimes we think we are so unique. I'm the only one going, listen, you don't understand. The folks behind you got 10 times more problems than you have. Everybody will face storms. That's what Christ is saying. Whether you are built on the rock or the sand, the storms come against you. Number 4, storms impact everyone. Number 5, storms are not the issue in life. And I thought it was important to remember. Because if storms hit everybody, then the storm is not the issue. Let me say it slow. If the storm hits everybody, then the issue in life is not storms. Don't worry about the storm. It's coming anyhow. You got to focus on something else. In other words, storms come to expose what you built on. So the most important thing in life in 2:12 is not how many storms are coming. You got to focus on, am I built in the right way? In other words, the structure is more important than the storm. That's why God brought you here tonight. He brought you here to tell you that there are going to be a whole lot of storms more frequently in 2012. But I'm going to give you the key. He says, the key to rising above the storm of life is to secure your building code, your foundation, and your material that you built out of. I have no fear of storms. No fear of anything in 2:12. Why? Because it ain't the storm that's the problem. It's whether I am built on the right foundation and got the right material and got the right code. If you don't have the right stuff, he says there will be a great crash. You'll fall apart. In other words, you are never remembered by what you avoided in life. You are remembered by what you what? Survived. Never trust the person who ain't been through no storm. I will never forget when I read Bill Gates' book. I will never forget it. They asked Mr. Gates, how do you, they said, what's the secret to your success in Microsoft? He said, the managers. They said, how do you hire managers? He said, I interview them myself. They said, what's the process? He says, well, I interview managers and I ask them the basic questions. He said, but there's one question I reserve at the end. And if they get this right, I hire them. If they get it wrong, I don't hire them. They said, what's the question? He said, the question I always ask them is this: have you ever failed before? Have you ever made a mistake? Have you ever had a collapse in your work life? He said, if they say no, I don't hire them. I don't trust anyone, he says, who ain't been through a storm. Why? Because you are not remembered by what you avoided. How do we know David? Goliath. How do we know Joshua? The wall. How do we know Samson? The Philistines. How do we know Moses? Pharaoh. If you ain't got no problem, you ain't got no reputation. What made Mandela famous? Jail. What made Martin King Jr. famous? Jail and hoses and dogs. Listen, why don't you give yourself a great opportunity to become famous next year? Invite some storms to come into your life and show them how bad you are. Just show them how I'm going to stand. And after having done all, I'm going to stand. Never trust a person who ain't survived nothing. Everybody can brag, but few of them can testify. Let me tell you something about the eagle. The eagle is the only bird that looks for storms. And it's the only bird that God identified with. The eagle is a strange bird, and he's the king of birds. Here's why. Number one, the eagle is the king of birds because the eagle understands storms. Thirdly, the eagle looks for storms. It's the only bird that looks for storms. In the desert, you see an eagle gliding high, looking for storms, sandstorms and cyclones. Why? Because the eagle welcomes storms. Why? Because the eagle flies toward the storms when he sees it. Now, why would you do that? The answer is very simple. The eagle uses the storm to increase height. Number 7, the eagle uses the storm to rest. The eagle wing can be 7 feet span. And when an eagle sees a storm, he goes into the storm, he lets the current of the storm push him up higher, and then he sets his pinions and he rests on the top of the storm. When the storm is present, the eagle rests. I'm an eagle. Number 8, the eagle uses the storm to cleanse its feathers. All the dust in the desert gets clogged in the feathers, and the eagle goes into the storm, and the velocity of the wind blows the dust away. In other words, it uses the storm for cleansing. The eagle also uses the storm to test their pinions. That's the bone, a little bone in their wing that they set. They have to test it on a storm to see if it's locked, and they just rest. Number 10, eagles let the storm leave when they finish using it. 2012, I want you to use every storm that comes. Someone just say amen right there. And I want you to tell the storm, I'm going to use you to go higher in faith, and I'm going to lock my faith on you, and I'm going to rest in the God who's the God of the storm. And when I finish using you, I'm going to let you just go on by. This is why you have to learn how storms work. Eagles do not fear storms. And I challenge you to be like an eagle, because eagles are the most successful birds in the world. Now, let me close with this. Nothing is permanent except God. We got to get this settled for 2012. God promises that nothing is permanent, but only God is permanent. Look at Ecclesiastes again. God says to everything there's what? A season. That means nothing is forever. If you got plenty now, that ain't forever. If you ain't got nothing now, that ain't forever. If you up now, that ain't forever. If you down now, that ain't forever. Everything is seasonal. So don't panic in the seasons. You got to find something that doesn't change. But two things that doesn't change. One, God, and two, his promises. But the problem is God promises change. So his promises are true, including the one that says nothing will remain the same. And so God has a plan for your life. And I'm putting it to you, friends, that God is unchanging. Look at James 1, verse 16. Write it down. It says, don't be deceived, my dear brothers. Every good and perfect gift comes from where? Above, from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He is permanent. Another verse, Psalm 145:13 says, your kingdom, O God, is an everlasting kingdom. Your dominion endures through all generation. The Lord is faithful to all of his promises and loving to all he has made. God says, my promises are stable. I like this one. James 1 verse 2 rather. It says, consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you face the storms, so many kinds, because you know. Now, this is amazing. The only way to face storms with joy is you got to know something. If you don't know something, then you can be joyful in the storm. But what do you got to know? First of all, he says you got to know that the testing of your faith develops what? Perseverance. And perseverance must finish its work in your life so that you may be mature and complete and not lacking anything. The only way to live a life of no lack is to be tested by storms. And he says, have pure joy when they come, because you know that this storm is going to leave you a better person, a stronger person with more stable perseverance. Can I hear an amen? Tell your neighbor, I'm in the classroom right now of perseverance. In other words, don't leave the class. Stay in the class until perseverance has its complete work. Ladies and gentlemen, Deuteronomy 32 says, for the Lord's portion is this people, his people. He shielded him and cared for him. He guarded him as the apple of his eye. Like an eagle stirs her nest and hovers over her young and spreads its wings to catch them and carries them on his pinions, the Lord alone will lead you. Listen, eagles only use their pinions in a storm. God says, I'm going to carry you on my pinions, which means that God will let you fall in the storm, and then he'll catch you, he says. But he ain't going to leave the storm. He can be in the storm with you, and both he and you are going to use the storm to carry you higher. He can put you on his pinions, he says, and he's going to show you how to use your pinions. He's going to train you how to handle storms himself. He went through so you can go through. Can I hear an amen? Now, let me put this to you in a very simple way. Luke 23, Jesus says, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you like wheat, but I've already prayed for your faith that it fail not. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. In other words, you ain't qualified to help nobody else until you survive something, he told Peter. Tell your neighbor, you ain't know nothing until you've been through something. Hit him, tell him again, you ain't know nothing until you've been through something. If you've been through something, clap your hands. Thank God you made it through. Your testimony. I put this I put this to rest tonight. 10 keys to rising above the storm. You want to write these down and keep them in the front of your house, your refrigerator, and your workplace. This is what I use to make it through my storms. Number one, believe you are built for storms. The eagle believes he can handle a storm. He's built for it. Number two, know that storms are natural. Stop being shocked that things are tough. Can I say it again? Stop being shocked that things are tough. Stop being shocked that you lost your job. Stop being shocked that the business is going through a tough time. Why? Storms are natural. Number three, you must understand the nature of storms. That's why I'm teaching it tonight. Number four, do not curse the storm. You can spend your whole year getting mad at something that happened. And so you waste all your energy on madness instead of using your energy on progress. Don't curse the storm, understand it and use it. Number five, use the storm to test your true self. Number six, let the storms expand the limits of your potential. Number seven, use the storm to rest and test your faith in God. You know why God will strip you? So you can trust him. God will bring you to everything zero. You know, Job's story is a good job. Satan said to God, let me take everything from Job and he'll curse you. God said, okay, go ahead and try. I know my servant Job. That's not in the Bible. God said, I know my servant Job. I know the guy. Why? I done test him already. Satan's okay, watch him. I'm going to take everything. Let me take everything. God, okay, you can take everything, but don't touch his life. And the guy lost his farm went into foreclosure. All the children died. His body was struck with boils and sickness and disease. All the cattle died. All that he had was gone, and his wife was mad at him. You can't get no worse than that in life. Everything gone. And then the wife turned around and said, why don't you curse God and die? This God who you claim to serve, look what he let happen to you. Some of y'all feel that way tonight. This God who you've been giving tithes to and giving offerings to, and you've been going to prayer meeting. How come all this stuff is happening? Hey, storms are natural. And storms come to test your faith in God. Matter of fact, storms will come to remove your faith out of your boss. It'll take your faith out of your company. It puts it back where it belongs, in God. And number 8, let the storms clean out your relationships and your habits. There's some bad habits that can only be broken by a storm. Well, I ain't smoking no more. Why? The doctor say I got, lung cancer. You was trying to stop smoking for 20 years. And one announcement from a doctor, you stop overnight. Bam, finish. The storm will break a habit. Don't curse the storm. And number 10, let the storm drive you closer to divine material. Because you want to build your house on the right foundation, which is the word of God and a prayer life with God. I challenge you tonight as we change this great, beautiful year, that get yourself ready for some storms that are going to hit you. Every prediction I have seen is not positive. I put it to you. Number 10, see the storm as a messenger from God. How can that be? Here's a verse that I always live by. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. No temptation or storm has seized you except that which is what? Common to all men. In other words, your storm ain't special.
People didn't have to fill out all those things.
The next verse. And God is faithful. When the storm comes, he says, he will not allow you to be what? Tested beyond what you can bear. Tell your neighbor, that's deep. Let me tell you what that means. That means whatever you face in 2012, God allowed it because God knows you the same way he knows you.
You went credit report for 7 years.
Let me say it again. Whatever you face in 2012, it doesn't matter. If it's a big one, that means God thinks big of you.
I don't know.
Why? He won't allow you to face what you are not able to overcome. So if he allows it, he trusts you.
Okay.
A storm is a message from God about what he thinks about you.
Yeah, sure.
If you got a broke toe and you think that's a big deal, then God thinks you can handle a broke toe. But if you lost your leg, God said that you can handle leg loss. And if you lost your house, God said you can handle a lost house.
The shoulder needs.
Right. I got another one coming bigger than that.
Inch in the shoulder.
In other words, every storm that comes,
but you got to be careful.
It's God saying to you,
maybe it's 3/4.
Go, girl, you can handle this. Come on, son, you can handle this. I won't allow it if you couldn't handle it. That means if it comes, you got what it takes to overcome it. Give God a hand for the ability to overcome storms.
To kind of push up.
Hallelujah. I put it to you then that God has an answer. You must remember this. Give yourself back to God. And I put it to you as my encouragement to you on this great last opportunity that you have to remember these simple statements. One, initiate the solutions to storms next year. Don't wait. And I think Pastor Dave said it tonight. Don't sit around and wait for somebody to approve what you're about to do. God will tell you what to do in a storm. Number two, place demands on your own potential. Initiate your own development. Number three, test the creativity of your mind. God will give you stress to stretch your mind, or you will allow stress so you can think bigger. Number four, believe in your ability to solve problems and look at what you have. You got more than you think you have. And number six, study what you have. Number seven, see potential in the resources around you.
This application to mailbox.
Number eight, see beyond what's normal in your life. Number nine, understand the true nature of what you have in your life. There are people and things and products that you have that will transform what you have. And number 10, act on faith. 2012 is a year that you're going to depend on heaven more than earth.
Picture ID and as an address on it. The guy is narcissist.
I'm going to repeat this. 2012
information from
will be a year that you will have to depend on heaven more than earth.
I know, and you got to see the ugly.
I say it for the third time.
He's talking about some rundown building, you know.
God is telling us
when I went back
2012 will have so many storms
that's okay.
that you're going to depend on heaven more than earth. But the good news is God knows you are an eagle. I want you right now to know that God's plans for your life are intact. The scripture that we read tonight, I want you to read it aloud with me, please. This is how we're going to manage our time. Jeremiah 29 verse 10. Read it loud, please. Go. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Reach over, take somebody's hands. Tell your neighbor, I'm supporting your plan. Let's hold hands together. We're going to face 2012 together. We've got 5 minutes before the hour. I want you to bow your heads and close your eyes and surrender all your plans to God. Lights, please.
Yeah. I wish, what's his name, the thing, I'll go back in Grenada one time. Get the boat going. No, get a place to stay that's cheap. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do it like that. I'm going to go and find a place in cities for $500 a month. There are places like that up in the days.
Hey, Dale.
No. Are you crazy? It's not what I'm doing. No. Oh, Jesus, Lord. No. No, I'm not going to do that. I have the garage to put my stuff. I'm probably going to go over there tomorrow and look at it. No, you're not thinking right now, okay? Worst case scenario would not be that. Worst case scenario would not be that. I'm not going to having the money from
We will fight imperialism. And now
ready
let
to
never be. Let us regret the race. So we will regret the fight with our
okay, and a worst case scenario would not include that. There we go. No, it would not include that. It would not include that. That's not a worst case scenario. That's a crazy case scenario. Okay, you're gonna do it. No, you would not do it. No, you would not do it. How come you didn't do it? How come you didn't do it before? No, you did not. You don't have no children. You have all adults. You don't have no children. I'm trying to do something on my phone. I did it, but I don't know how to do it.
Some people have weak, and others are strong. This is my song. Revolution, the version and civilization. If a strong wants to stand for my big things right. True to the weak, why we all unite. We them, they don't know who they fighting for. Moving, leveling, in a sense, that's what. But we are going down, so listen when I say.
Okay. I'm gonna
I said it preaching.
I just keep looking today and then
And glory, and glory, singing and glory,
couple of
some people are right, while others are wrong. For my song. There are a lot of people that have been right, that they are correct, so they want to fight. Is it right what's the leader to them to win? They get more confusion every day. And all opportunities and reaction to show these brothers. Some people Puppets on a string, that was this night, and it don't care a thing. Yes. You can hear them song. That's stories and glory. That's stories and glory. One of them stories and glory. One of them stories and glory. In a revolution, you will see progress, still sorrow and fun to my God. In charge of the end, the mix in the with the hand with the moon along. The genuine ones stand from the end. We go back and that we want to yes. But in 1980, 1980, yes. Imperialism, yes. Yes. And I wanna let stories and go in our heart. Yes, Lauren. All right. Yeah. We don't know why they killed them for. Well, I think we know. Look at it,
You early start.
tell me where they do that for. And it's not love, but
Innocent.
blood. Nobody shock you what
Innocent.
I said it's not that blood feeling I'm cool. Ain't no blood feeling Jamaica. Ain't no blood feeling Havana. Ain't no blood feeling Grenada. Ain't no blood feeling Guatemala.
Yes.
Ain't no blood in Nicaragua. Ain't no blood in El Salvador. Ain't no blood in Vietnam. Papa, stop the tribal war.
Yeah.
Papa, stop the tribal war.
A pleasant Saturday morning to everyone. It is Gem FM. I'm your host, the sheriff, yours truly, John Callis. As we start off today late and well, little things happen, you know, and that's one of those things, one of those days when you say that overwork and tired. And you know, when you're in your own elements and you don't have to answer to a boss, sometimes become kind of a not don't care, but you know what? I'll go on anytime because it's my thing. That is a negative business attitude, you know? Because people expect you to come out at a certain time and you should be there for a certain time. But actually I did. I mean, I don't know about you, but people fall asleep even when you go to work, they realize I should be 8 o'clock and I just get up 10:30. Overslept. Well, that happened to me today. I literally overslept. And my wife came in from work this morning and my daughter came, Daddy, I want to get some of this bacon and egg and cheese that you make. I love it. Can you make it for me? So I got up to go in the room and I saw my wife on the bed, like, whenever came in, you know, he came in called to eat somewhere there. I just walk in the bed and I just fell right back asleep on the bed again. So here I am. But I apologize to you for the lateness and to our viewers around the world. A pleasant Saturday morning to you. This is the second day of March, as we enter into many things in March. March 8th is International Women's Day. March 13th is, excuse me, it's a very historical day for Grenadians from St. David's to St. Patrick's and St. George's. They put it away. We have the March 13th revolution, we have the March 13th election, you had the March 13th situation in St. David. So that's happening in March. And then if you go to Italy, Rome, you have the Ides of March. So March is a very historical month. And for us in Grenada, March 13th definitely is a very historical month for us. We yet to see March 13th being given a national holiday. I know why October 9 didn't come before it, but we take it as it comes. I'm looking forward for a day when March 13 will become a national holiday in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. And I know if that becomes a holiday, the rest of the Caribbean will celebrate it with us and the world. I think we have to just take it in stride, but it will happen. I think all the mechanism is in place. Everybody who should be making decisions is in place to have that happen, to put whether you like the ocean or not, it will happen. For those who don't believe and don't see the revolution as legal, but enjoy the benefits of the revolution, I say to you, sit down in a corner, take a seat and watch the action go on. It's happening, it's gonna happen. You know, and I make no apologies for this one. Yeah, it had to happen. And for those who talk about torture during the revolutionary period, I have a picture, I put it on Facebook, take it down, but I'm gonna tell you, remember Bernadette, Loris, and Lorraine? And Jackie is still alive as an amputee. Yes? So she has both physical trauma and psychological trauma. If you're going to talk about you eat cockroach in your food and you were shot at and you had to work hard in what do you call it place? In Hopeville, well, Jackie lost her leg. Her sister died. Bernadette died. Lois died. Alistair Charles died. Yes? So the brothers in Chrysler House in St. Patrick died. We could go on. But March 13th will never be erased by those utterances of 3,000 people was in prison without trial, and those who continue to believe that the parents and the brothers that was innocent and they were just put in prison without trial. Some of you are still enjoying the benefits of the United States after 13 years, what they call the first election, 13 years of harassment and brutality of those who didn't join forces with them. Some had to flee to Canada. The counter-revolutionaries, and let me say that in the United States was in prison, the land was confiscated. They had no right to a job. Yes, they couldn't teach, they couldn't preach. All of that take place in the nice place that they live in called the United States today. And they glamorize, and they continue to, like I think the Trump says, when they ask him, told him about those people are killers, he say, who is not? We are not innocent either. We kill as much as they have killed. Whether call it mistakes or whatever, it happened, they are killers as well. So let us not come here anywhere, any platform, and pretend that the United States didn't have a revolution. Let us not pretend that they didn't kill, and they're still going to kill our people and leaders everywhere in the world in the sake of national security. It happened, but we in Grenada carried company in 1979, and those who couldn't believe that the revolution was not popular, think again. Think again. The disruptive minority, even today, would tell you that yes, and they were part and parcel of the March 13th revolution. They helped create it. And ask them seriously why they did what they did. Yes? And they will tell you. I have spoken to several of them. And most of them would not come on TV or on television to make and say what they want to say because they know that they was not innocent. I have spoken to fellas who told me that they was recruited. Yeah, and they was young as I was, but took the road that less traveled. Yes? And I become who I was then. And believing what I did was the right thing still. And for those who couldn't believe that they could go around on TV and talk about the torture and they talk about this and the other, you was in the wrong and you're going to be in the wrong. I have met people who said to me, my uncle was innocent. I would say to them, my mother, if she heard that I was killing El Salvador, she would say, no, not my son. He goes to church with me on Sunday. He always go to school during the week. He go in town by his cousin on the weekend. He was never in nothing. He was an innocent little boy. Lo and behold, she did not know I was even in the PRA. So I'm not gonna sit here and say your father and your uncle was innocent. You don't know what they do when they say they go in the round or going down the street by these guys and them play cards. So with that being said, everybody's here with us today, and it's March, the beginning of the celebration for March 13th in the 50th anniversary. But on top of all of that, we are Grenadians everywhere. And Grenada are now having a new visit from a different level of violence, gun violence in Grenada. And the lawlessness that is now embracing our country. And someone said to me yesterday, even though he doesn't like Maurice Bishop, his thing was that could never happen in the river. And Mr. X said in one song, they built in bottle in Sokamuna, they couldn't do it in the river. A lot of things that is being done today were never been done in the river. However, it's a new challenge for the new administration. And I heard someone said that Mr. Raymond Matthews will have to cut short his illness,
his retirement,
to return to help aid in the national security interests of Grenada when it comes to this lawlessness on our streets. And I would applaud his return. So be, Mr. Raymond Matthews, wherever you are, I can't wait for your return to help the force to deal with those lawlessness. And I think, but you're coming in a while, that I want to talk about that today, most of all, because this level of violence and this gun culture is being incubated in our country, have to be rooted up from wherever that incubation is taking place. And if we do not trash that butt in place, we'll have a big problem in our hand. So I think it's high time that the police commissioner and other persons of security, and also then the prime minister is the head of national security, but there is always the forces on the ground that have to take full control of the situation. That in the ordinary police officer in the field have to take the necessary corrective measures to ensure the safety of its citizens. That's your frontline responsibility. Whatever happens, the boss have to protect you. But in the interest of the citizen, you have to do what is right on the ground. People might say you handled it wrong. They don't have no idea sometimes what you have to face when ill-disciplined, lawless people want to overpower you on the streets. And the policeman have all right, like Israel is here, to defend itself when he faces threat. I think there is an apparent threat. And in shunning the appearance of evil, you have to do what you have to do. Because sometimes you'll be soft on the street, people go walk all over you. So I don't know if you saw the video, Delbert, of the police officer in the town, police E45, having his hand, and another guy, big guy, in the middle of him and the person he apparently wanted to arrest. There's a lot of stories about the guy shouldn't be there. And if the guy wasn't there, the police shoot the guy. Well, I watched the video several times, and the police officer needed help. Wanted to call him for backup. Or not try to fight it on my own. And I think the weapon in his hand, in his mind, thinking that if I keep it down, he will out there that it is a kind of a defense mechanism for me. If he wanted to shoot the guy, probably could have done it. I don't shoot him to kill him, but probably, the other person, not because of a uniform, that people could overpower you because they're stronger than you, they're more aggressive than you. And if you're not thinking quickly on your feet, you could be overcome by those violent and disruptive people on the street. And there's a lot of them out there. So given the present situation, we have to be very mindful when we criticize the police when they're doing their job. Yes, there's police who've been overly aggressive and don't use quick thinking to solve problems. But at the same time, we have to give them the leeway when they're on the street, because you never know who you're confronting. You never know who might have their own issues for themselves. And the littlest thing they do on the street could trigger them off, and the police might be the victim. And the police, where I say use common sense, sometimes the situation on the ground does not really call for common sense, but it calls for quick thinking, in a sense that you might have to do what is right to survive. Okay? So I am really, really not happy with the present state of the gun culture is this development in Grenada. It have to be cut short. And you have to root it out from wherever it is. If it means 24 hours police on the street in that area, there have to be something to help curb the violence and pay more attention on the waterways and have more patrol by boat on the waterways to ensure that guns don't come in illegally in the country. And we have to deal with it. So again, good morning to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. The time is now 10 to 11, 10 to 12. That's almost time to wrap up our show. Well, I don't have enough time, but we go until Pablo comes in. And then Pablo have Mr. Michael Batis today. So I have to go on the street this evening. So I will have to rush out as soon as Pablo finishes and get some stuff done. But I have double portion of work to do today. But my wife just came in from work and she go to sleep. She been working from 11 to 7. So she had to take her rest. And when she get up, I know she had things to do. So that will have to double up and do things that are wrong and change a lot of stuff. So again, a pleasant Saturday morning and happy March 13th as we approach that an International Women's Day to all our women, our lives, our children, daughters in particular, and our wives and girlfriend. And those of you who have ex-girlfriend, probably say happy International Women's Day. That might be nice with her and make up and, you remember me? Yeah. Because they all do something good for us. I don't have an ex-girlfriend to really go back to, but I never had an ex. I don't know ex. Yeah, the only ex I had was to vote one time. Yeah. But other than that, I don't know ex. So again, Delbert, over to you, my brother.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, listen, there's quite a lot happening, but we have a tendency to overplay these things, to give them a lot more ink and a lot more time than they deserve, right?
Yeah.
So we just completed a period of remarkable accomplishment in terms of celebration for the 50th anniversary of independence, in quotes. And the events were very successful and it was safe. Okay, there weren't any. I can't remember hearing of any major incident.
Yeah,
I was in Grenada for the entire period, and so that incident with the police officer, I assume that it happened in St. George's.
Yeah, it looks so to me. Yeah,
and I think it was strange that it would have happened in St. George's and that one officer was by himself for such a long period of time. And there weren't other officers in close proximity to come to his aid.
Yeah.
Now, as for the gentleman the tall gentleman, I don't know what he was trying to do. It's very difficult. The audio was not very good in it, but it appears that he was trying to de-escalate the situation.
Yes.
It appears that way. Okay. But still, according to the law, he would have been interfering because what he should have probably done was to assist the police because we actually have a responsibility to do that, right? To assist the police in making the arrest and let the courts figure it out after. But when you're a policeman and you pull your gun, that is not de-escalation. Once you pull that gun, you have escalated the situation to the maximum. There's only one step left to take. So I am supportive of law enforcement. I'm an institutionalist, but I'm not one of them who believe that the Grenada police, I hate to use the word force because it brings back memories of slavery, that our police department is properly trained. I don't see the evidence of it. And you see a lot of posts, people saying, oh, we solved 90% of the crime in Grenada. If the Grenada Police Service was not solving 90% of the crime, then they should be disbanded. We're a very small country.
That's your responsibility. Yes.
Most of the crime that happens in very, tight neighborhoods, and someone always know a lot of it is intra-family conflict. So you absolutely very early know who did it. More important, I don't know if you remember it. You remember, and I hate to go back during that period, but what the hell? It's March. It's our month. During the revolution, when we had rallies, we would just go around leading up to every rally and pick up all the bad boys and lock them up. Lock them up and let them out Sunday evening, because to ensure that they didn't go breaking into people's houses, they didn't, call it whatever you want. It worked, right?
Right.
There was no real incidents, but training. So I am the Regional Security Service, which is a U.S. outfit in the Caribbean. They're not trained to deal with regular police work.
Right.
Basically, the entire purpose is to make sure another Grenada doesn't happen in the Caribbean.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they're trained to 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 um to suppress people's rights, and they're trained to keep people in line, keep people in check. Good, good police work starts way before you get to that level, and
Right.
it starts probably very, you know, we, you know, back then we you remember we used to have the cadet corps. I
Yeah.
think it's still, we used to have the police boys clubs
Mhm.
where, you know, you have young men who became part, so they begin to show respect for these institutions. But the reality is that, right, crime is a result of economic displacement, because most of these young men who are now involving themselves in this violence, okay, young men who the society has left behind. They have lots of missed opportunities, and somehow they didn't find a place where they can become productive citizens. Also, the whole question of the gun culture in the Caribbean, okay, got increasingly worse when the U.S. started deporting um, uh,
Illegals
started
and
deporting
criminals from the
violent
domain.
criminals from the U.S. into the Caribbean without giving the governments in the Caribbean any kind of assistance
Yes.
to deal with it, right? And I have long suggested that the islands should all band together and refuse to accept these people until there's a plan in place. Okay? The guns, there are no guns made in Grenada. There are no guns made in Trinidad or Jamaica. Okay? The guns are made in the US. They're all coming from the US. So the US has to help with that interdiction in terms of working collaboratively with shipping companies to scan a lot more aggressively
Yeah.
shipments going to the Caribbean, whether or not these barrels and boxes and other things contain ammunition, and how we can do that. And then if the local police become better trained, especially in terms of intelligence, they would begin to sort of know who, who to target. So if I'm shipping guns to some bad boy in Grenada, I might not be shipping it directly to him. I might be shipping it to his third or fourth cousin. Okay? So you're not looking at his third or fourth cousin or his ex-girlfriend or this person, but he's getting guns. The other issue you raised with whether or not we have the capacity to 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 adequately police our waters, because it appears a lot of the guns are coming in from Trinidad, and those are challenges that we face. And you know how I feel about CARICOM. How do we do that? But we don't want thing. But I'm not the one who believes that the violence is out of control. Any violent act that happens on the island is one too much, and we have to do whatever we can to find avenues for these young men to become involved in, that they you know, we can direct them to become productive citizens down the road. But I'm not ready to throw my country under the bus. You know, we are not historically a violent people, and generally, if somebody knows of an incident like that, they would bring it to the attention of the police. And,
Even, I mean, just outside of Grenada, for example, in Toronto here, we had a really spike in gun violence. Yes.
Mhm.
And imagine you can't get a gun store in Canada to walk into and buy guns. Yes. Yet the streets are filled with guns. Not 2 weeks, last week.
It's coming in from south and west of the border, man.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So we have people standing on the bus stop and just get shot at. I think it's initiation, right? 2 innocent people.
Yeah.
And then just within another hour, downtown across from the National Stadium, there, right? 3 people get shot again. And then the next day, a gun ring out in the eastern of the country again, the city. So the gun been blazing, left, right, and center in this place, right? Just last week, Wednesday, a guy walk up behind an elderly woman, 70-something years with a peeled gun, and she up in her face with it. I mean, and this been out, he been on he have some restrictions on him having guns and being out there at a certain time. And here he is shooting somebody in the face. You know what I'm saying? So I think we have a responsibility to ensure security for people. But at the end of the day, there is some people and there is a place that don't seem to care about the violence in other people's place. Yes? They just continue to let it flow as oil, easily and smoothly through the borders. And then when it overflows, we say, well, where this came from? It's been coming all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And we have to find a way to cover it. And I mean, in Canada here, for example, the amount of gun violence and the age group of the people is not old people, young people in the teens. Yeah. Before it used to be like older, 35 and so on, but now the younger generation.
Well, it has to be a collective effort, because the best tool to fighting crime is a people who rejects it, right?
Yeah.
If the larger community rejects crime, rejects violence, and is not willing to accept it and not have it visited upon themselves, you'll find greater collaboration with law enforcement to combat, to deal with it. So I'm looking for a comprehensive approach. I'm not looking for over, heavy-handed approach where people, because a lot of times when you have that approach, people's right. I lived through the 90s in the United States and saw the laws that were passed, and when so many innocent people were caught up in these massive sweeps that were happening, especially in Black and brown communities, and they did not serve us well. So I don't want to see the same thing happen in Grenada. As to whether or not we need a gang unit, I don't know if that's the correct word for it, but we need better intelligence, and the way that's going to do, we have to increase the level of community policing that happens in the island. Too many times the police, if you're not in St. George's or maybe Guave or Grenville, you're probably not going to see a police officer patrolling the streets, visiting communities, talking to young people, finding out what's going on with families. All those are tools that can help fight crime. And we're going to have to, bring in the sociologists and the psychologists and the criminologists. Instead of just overreacting to it, let's figure out what has worked in countries like ourselves, okay? And then we can begin to deploy some of those.
I mean, crime have always been and should always be part of our culture. It's our communities, whether it's white collar, blue collar, yellow, green, or whatever color crime. It's always gonna be crimes, right? Even at the highest level in offices and government and businesses and stuff like that. I always had a conversation last week about Fintan the bug, taking the fall for many people, among others, right? And that's another level of crime, again, right? But I always believe that the home environment, right, is by and large responsible for the rearing of the children and cultivating the right mindset in them from a very young age. And then you have the school system, not just go and teach math, English, and science, but also taking interest in building and framing good mindset for good citizenship. Yes? Yeah. And that
helps. But you know what? I see a lot of comments on social media about every day the kids are fighting in school.
Yeah.
Bro, when we went to school, we fought every day. Also, we just didn't have social media to put it on. Sometimes we didn't even know what the fight was about.
I fought
And
in
I,
school.
I could tell you, I knew guys that went to both primary and secondary school that didn't at any given time they had a knife or an ice pick in their bag.
Yeah. I fought in school before. And fighting after school, especially when you end the school, you go in this end, that end is a fight. You know what I mean? There's always a fight. And that's new. I think I see the level of violence though
Mm-hmm.
that is evolving from this fight is more detrimental than before. You know,
Maybe.
people fight in school, right?
Yeah. It was mostly fist fights, right?
Yeah, almost stabbing and stuff. You see, I look at a video from Jamaica, man, and it's brutal. I see one in Guyana. Guy have a machete, man, chop off the guy ears, and you know. And
But Jamaica always had that. Jamaica always had that.
So Pablo is hold on.
Let's the first place I saw a man get killed. I was in Jamaica and I saw somebody got killed over such a silly incident at a gas station that I couldn't believe it. You know?
Oh man, it's crazy, man. Pablo is here. Let us recognize the general. General.
Good morning, comrade. Good morning. How are you?
Welcome to GMFM.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Happy to be able to join you.
Yes, man.
Now, and good morning to the guests. Good morning to the listeners out there. I'm listening to the conversation here, and the whole issue of the fact that delinquency existed when we were growing up. Guys used to have weapons in those days too, that we used to fight among ourselves, and sometimes at the end of the day, you don't even know what the fight was about. You don't even recall what the fight was about, because oftentimes, sometimes by the time the fight is over, it's the same group of people back together, doing things together, playing together, and so on. And the fact that during those times, we didn't actually do the kind of injuries that we see people doing to their friends in this dispensation. Yeah. And I think it comes down to the whole issue of values. The values during that period, the values that we as children had internalized, even at that stage. Yeah. The values that we had internalized caused us to behave in a particular way, in spite of our youthful exuberance and so on. Yeah. And we had a certain level of appreciation. Yeah. Watch, I have to leave you momentarily. I'll be back shortly.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So
I'm drying clove and the rain is coming.
Okay. All right. That's it. That's part of the grand culture for you. Cool and cuckoo in the rain.
Cover your cocoa, cover your base, cover your clothes.
Everything covered up.
Your pimento, whatever it is going on.
Oh man. You know, so yeah, so what Paul was saying it makes sense too, right? But you know something, I remember having a fight in school. Yes? That was my first big fight and the last fight I had in school. Yeah. This brother was playing marble outside the church, the Catholic church. That's our school. We used to have going to the church where our school was based. We never after the old church was shut down, they put us up in the school, the church. And we was playing marble in the morning. And he was losing, grab all the marble, and he was a school bully. He was a bully. And he picked up all the marble around it. I said, man, what are you doing? And he asked me to do about it. I said, nothing, that's fine. So just left him. Everybody leave him alone because everybody afraid of the guy. Everybody afraid of Carl. Yes? Carl was the badger in the school. So what happened? Around 12 o'clock, lunchtime, yes? We had this conversation. Me and a friend was playing, and we running, and I bumped into him, and he pushed me down on the ground. I thought forget and that's it. He came back again, pushed me again. He pushed me, kicked me right by a chair. And the chair had about, those Dixie biscuit in the can? That was there on the chair. And I saw the notebook there. I picked up that chair. I picked up a chair and I started beating that brother at a chair. I beat him with that chair there, but merciless. Yes? And then I saw a teacher coming to us, Mr. Lord. I give him one more chair and I run off. I run home. Yeah. And I got home, my father asked me why I come so early.
Yeah.
Went back to the school. After telling what happened, took back to the school. Just before school, I've been closed, finished up for the day anyways. And we got there and brought me in the principal office. Both of us get 6 strokes.
Yeah.
We had to shake hands.
Yeah.
And make up right there. Because we was neighbors. It wasn't like somebody didn't know. You're right across the street, your grandmother right across the street, you always be there. That's
Exactly.
your father, right?
Exactly.
He's my neighbor. And his brother-in-law, who was the one that was organizing a raffle for the schoolhouse raffle for this big Dixie biscuit. Guess what? He won the biscuit. And guess what? We shared on our way home in the evening, going home. we ate out of the same, our 5 of us go up as normally we go home in the evening. We end up sharing and eating from the same kind of biscuit. That's what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because you see, we had a greater sense of community, right?
Yeah.
Where by and large you had, because if you go back and look at our history, and which Hudson was there to chime in on that, is that in almost every village in Grenada, you had a few families who sort of was the foundation of that village, and they tended to have influence, right? And even influence over the really bad boys. And I mean, listen, I grew up in Chantemelle. Chantemelle was a terrible village, you know, by the time, you know, it was a lot worse before my time.
Chantemelle had a reputation,
you know,
a national reputation as a bad man town, a bad man village.
but there were people in the village who the bad boys would never cross because they just respected them. They had reverence for them. They knew that if something went south in the village, these were the people who would step up and help. These were the people who would step up and lend a hand. So they never crossed them. So I know guys who would curse all day. But, you know, within 50, 100 feet or more of my mother's house, especially sheep outside, they became, you know, acolytes. They were goody two-shoes, you know, because they just would not disrespect. And there were other people in the village that also carried that weight. So you had that greater sense of community, right? Because a lot of the fight was not so much a village against village, but intra-village fight, right? And if you know, you really not going to go extra to try and violently damage the guy who lives 3 doors down from you or just across the street or right up on top of the hill. So we had that sense, and you know that the community would not accept it. So there was a sort of social contract, okay, that we don't have now. And you can blame a number of things for that, but you know, I don't know. I don't think in other words, I think Grenada is in a position now where we can solve that problem or begin to solve the problem. Begin to, even because, you know, our crime rate, I saw a report going around this week where we scored 80 on the scale. And there were like 4 countries scoring 80. There was only 2 countries in the Caribbean who was higher than us in terms of safety. But I think we, Barbados, whoever, blah, blah, blah. These rankings are very subjective anyway, but it was the latest one going around, and we scored 80 out of 100 in terms of as a safe Caribbean destination. Right. So we have to go to work on it and try and, you know, every day lower. But it's going to be because we create more opportunities for our young men, because we give them very early a sense of value, what Pablo was talking about, a sense of social responsibility, letting them know that they are the stewards of the future of the country, and that it is important for them now to sort of, we have to help them invest in themselves, but they also have to make an effort. And if we can do that, it's not going to be a one-prong approach. It's going to take different, it's going to have to be in our schools. Maybe the government can deploy a cadre of retirees who can begin to go into the schools and talk to these young men, because that's where it's really happening. And if you're going to change anything, that's where the change is going to start.
Go back to Pablo. Okay? You're making a point before the rain disrupt him.
Yes,
yeah. Go ahead.
Actually, yes, we're glad for the rain, but as you know, the saying goes, who have cocoa in sun have to look out for rain. We have clove in the sun, so we have to keep looking out for the rain. It's the clove season.
Yes.
You know. Yes. Now that sense of respect for the elderly, for the grown-ups within the community that Delbert was referring to. This is where I was going. Because apart from those specific families that Delbert referenced, generally across the board, there was that sense of respect for the elders. Yes. And so much so, even if you're walking among yourselves and you go to say certain things, you would look around first to see who elder people are within earshot.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Before you actually say it, as children growing up. You know, because you were conscious of the fact that certain things were expected of children. Right? And yes, it is the nature of youth to exercise and practice some level of delinquency. That's what comes with youth. You're exploring, you're learning, you know, and there is that tendency to go outside of the box sometimes. Yeah? But you appreciated the fact that you did owe a certain level of accountability to your parents and to your elders, and you behave accordingly. Yeah? That is not the case anymore. And as Delbert alluded to, it is as a consequence of a number of variables, including the fact that looking at what really pertains in the US in particular, in terms of children calling the police on the parents, if the parent was to, was to hold them accountable for certain things, for certain behavior, you can call the police on your parents, and the next thing you know, the police is taking you away. Your parents have no authority over you, and all that kind of thing. We are buying into that kind of culture and into these kind of values. It's become very, very influential on the thinking of our young people. In addition to that, as regards the violence, we see that the gun culture and that culture of violence and violent reaction has become and is becoming an integral part of how our young people treat with situations. Yeah. And that sense of civic responsibility from adults down to the young people is very lacking. Yeah. The kind of things that some grown-ups will do, you know, to government facilities, because we don't see and we don't appreciate the connection between the people and government, and the fact that government essentially is the people. Government get the resources from the taxes that you pay and so on. So when you break things up, and so it's the same government have to use the money that may have gone towards some kind of development initiative, now has to go back to repair this and to repair that. And these are some of the situations that we face, that lack in terms of that civic responsibility. What really is your responsibility to society at large? And that is very lacking. And we're getting into, could you imagine that in this dispensation, some of our young people, they see crime as a career?
Yeah.
You know, crime is a career. As far as some of our young people see it, because it's all about the money.
Yeah.
Once it brings an income, once you're able to generate income from it, then you're entitled to do whatever, and we have to do what is needed to begin to address these kinds of mindsets. And as Delbert said, it's not going to be, it's not a one-off something. You don't address these issues just by having one little session here, or you have a few people assigned to the schools as counselors and so on. It takes an all-embracing involvement, of all the different stakeholders in the community, and getting parents to appreciate what the real role and responsibilities are. Because I mean, in a lot of instances nowadays, a lot of parents, the most that they do is they provide the food and the clothes and the shelter.
Yeah.
And in terms of counseling and in terms of instilling values and so in the children, that is very lacking.
Yeah.
Because even the parents themselves are not displaying any level of values and any level of standards, and because even back then, some of the parents who may have been involved in some quote unquote unsavory conduct, it was not demonstrated and displayed in the presence of the children.
Yeah.
And some of them went overboard to not discipline in order to raise resources to look after these children. But those kids would not be privy to these things. These things were kept, right? But right now, it's in your face. Everything is out there in your face. And then, as we have a situation, whatever it is, be it a conflict with someone else or whatever, you're out there on social media, broadcasting, cussing off this one and that one and so on. And these things were not present in our dispensation.
Yeah.
So and we know, in addition to that, and I know there is serious denial on the part of some people, the music, the influence of the kind of music. And if you look at it, the kind of music and the content of the music that we grew up with had certain messaging, had certain content that would have played a role in influencing our minds, in influencing our perspective of things, in influencing our values, in influencing our worldview. Yes?
Yes.
The music right now do not contain that kind of content. The music right now contains content that speaks about dissing that one, that speaks about shooting that one, that speaks about killing that one, that speak about doing whatever. Yes? And you can see the difference in the product as young people that is being produced as a consequence of that. So you have a variety of influencing, influencing factors, that were not present then, that the young people are contending with right now. And as Delbert and you were saying, Brother John, if you do not have that kind of guidance coming from the top, then
Yeah.
Black Stalin and Chuck Dust and Peter Tosh.
You know what I mean? Yes.
They didn't
in
tell
Calypso, you had certain content, certain political content and so, and other value content. In the same way in the reggae music, it was the same thing.
Exactly.
Yes. Right now, that is not the case. The content in there, is just pure vulgar. you know, and it's broadcasted and blasted on our airwaves. Even then, there were certain songs that were not played on radio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, anything plays on radio. All you do is you just blip out certain words and so on, and that's it. But the message remains.
Yeah. I think one of the responsibilities should be squarely in one sense when it comes to this music. The Ministry of Culture have to do some censoring. Because I mean, there are radio stations in Grenada now. There are social media radio stations like mine and others, and I think people looking for likes more than looking for having a well-rounded community educated. Yes, and because of that competition for who do it first and who will get more likes, it takes away the educational process of educating people to become better citizens and have proper conversation like we are having here now. I could tell if I go to some social media thing right now, right, from Grenada, there is not a conversation at that happening. You'll be playing music and there will be derogatory music playing and stuff like that, right? Very few in between will have decent music playing. And that is where we as media person have to take responsibility of what content that goes out from our domain. Yes?
Yeah.
I was approached with songs, yes? And I listened to the song Michael Conway CD. I call back the people and say, change the languages, the F and the beaches and the this and I'll play a song. Otherwise, the song have a good story, but I would not play it with those languages in it.
Yeah.
Right? So if people like me tell people, the artists who doing those songs, I have an audience that doesn't cater to those kind of music, those kind of lyrics. Then if all of us do that, they have to rethink the production. Yes? And if we could do that collectively, and not do it for like, but do it for education, we'll develop a better mindset in our people. The DJs who play the music, the kind of music they play on the radio, sometimes I listen to them. I'm thinking like, why would you even entertain it? Right? So for us, I think it's important that when you have a medium like that, we should use it to foster a better mindset in our people. Get them to think differently and to function in a different. I mean, look at back. Paul was talking about that. When you go to a record shop back and you buy a record, when you go into its culture, Black Uhuru, you know, Peter Tosh, Bob Marley, you understand? There was no dancehall music that would cause disrespect for women.
Yeah.
There was no hip hop that was disrespecting our women. You know, there was poetic justice, sort of, you know, in some of these things, right?
Or calling women the B word. Listen, I remember, like, I'm sure, you know, occasionally growing up, I used the F word, but it was not part of my everyday dialect. Then I was living in the US, I don't know, maybe about 6-7 years that time, and my mom was here for up to do some medical and was staying with me. And I remember getting on the phone with someone who person worked for me, and I laced into them. Probably every next word was the F word, but I had become so accustomed to it, right? I forgot that my mother was in the in the other room. And she heard me. She didn't say anything. She waited till I got off the phone. And then she came to me and she said, I don't know who you are. And I was embarrassed. You know, because here was this woman who I never heard use the F word herself, who had raised me pretty good. And now I'd done something that was so disrespectful to her.
I didn't raise this boy this way.
Yes, she's like, I don't know who you are, you know. And the reality is that it was not even like an angry conversation. We were just shooting the breeze. and
that happens, right? So Delbert, the thing about is
of American culture that I always warn against, that we seem to take everything that's bad and very few of what's good can push us along in a productive way. And we have to be careful about it.
I mean, see what you wonder about the churches. Back in the days, the churches keep us together.
Yeah, they kept us. They kept us. I
And
mean, I was in every church organization choir. I
yeah.
couldn't sing a note, but I was in the choir.
I think we have to find that space,
Yeah.
creative space, in our communities. I remember in Grenville they had this under the what they call the Y, but the YMCA in Grenville, run by
Mm.
Lydia Benjamin, who overseeing the operation. And there's a group of young men. This is going to do craft.
Mhm.
It's filled with young men. Up to those ladies doing typing and guys in the bottom doing the arts and craft, right?
Yeah.
And I always say, I wish those things would go back again, because you'll find more young people find themselves to be occupied, you
Yeah.
know, to have something they could go after school to do, something they could do on a Saturday evening, because all what we're seeing, um, not only in Grenada, but we see it here as well, where young men, even though there's a library, there's just a library, go and read. Not everybody loves to read, right? But we
Yeah.
have to find creative ways, yes, to a space where they could come and do things. Even a place where they could play pool, a place where they could play domino, a place where they could play draft, a place where they could just go and read their poems. Write, have something that encourage them to come out in those communities, right? Because policing is one thing, yeah, but the police also could have like, I know Genesis was part of a community police um session where we call cops and computers, right?
Yeah.
And get to keep the computer after the session is a 3 months program or something like that, 1 year program, but Genesis go to that. Right, and end of the year, you get your certificate and so participate in this. And they talk about all these cyber crimes and all this stuff, and the children was gladly drawn into it. You
Yeah.
know, and so I think it's those little things that will help draw away from the violent nature that we see happening. And another thing too, I think getting parents involved in community-based organization. I remember growing up, there was a place in Southeast Hall where young ladies, young mothers
Yeah.
come out learn to bake and cook and crochet and
Mm.
do embroidery and tie dyeing and stuff like that, right? So those parents, with someone come with their children there, yeah, and they have space for them to do something too. So I think we have to go to those kind of community um activities and stuff like that. And the younger I get them, is better. I
Of
mean,
course. Of course.
when they turn 26 and 19 and stuff, I mean, it's a different mindset altogether. Before 10, get them before 10, get them by 8. 2 years to fix something, to adjust something in them. But after 10, it's the likelihood of readjusting a mindset,
Yeah.
a more difficult thing to do. And even after 10, even when you get them before 10, and they hit the school system, yes, they're exposed to 8 hours of none of your time.
Yeah.
None of your time.
Peer pressure.
Exactly. Peer pressure. People come from home with different values than yours. And that's what they know. And then your child, say, well, my parents is so strict. Yours, they do that. They get indoctrinated, not educated now. Indoctrinated into a different culture. Yeah? And they start thinking that have more freedom in it. But they don't realize that freedom is a trap. It's a trap. It's like putting rice and putting cheese on top of a piece of board for a rat, and he step on it, he fall right inside. And the other rat see it happen, still going into it and still falling on the seat down there, more cheese down there. But they don't, the cheese down there is poison. Right? It's to kill them. And that is
I agree with you. I think we have to move to um, something that I've seen, I think the city of Newark do here, where they have, I think once every 2 weeks, it was introduced, I think when the now senator was mayor here. They have career days, so where you have a combination of community activists, retirees, police officers, other people from different walks of life, from the church, from what have you, visit these schools regularly to sit down and have conversations with these children. And then in some schools where they would even go, certain select classes would only have 4 days of active formal education in the classroom. And on the 5th day, they would go out to work that day in a government office or a designated company, whatever it is. In Newark it was Prudential, AT&T, the Devils, all these organizations.
Oh,
So
Delbert.
very early, you're giving these young people a
Mm,
sense of what their world would look like after that
mm,
period of their life, and it begins to teach them some form of responsibility. They begin to take account of their lives. So, like I say, this is not. This is going to be a heavy lift, but Grenada is not in such a terrible position that we can't do it. But
yeah.
it's going to be an all hands on deck. But I don't want us to, because oh my God, sometimes you see some of the recommendations on Facebook, and I pray, I say, I hope these people never get close anyway to government giving advice or anything, because it's just downright crazy stuff. Let's bring in the people who have studied this, the
Mm,
criminologists, the sociologists, the psychologists, and let's see, and marry that with some of our old-fashioned values, right?
mm, mm.
Because I gave a lot of trouble in school, but it was not trouble where I'm getting into fights. It was generally trouble where I'm opposed to the school administration
Right.
on some nonsense, right? But and I know even on that, I knew if I went too far, you
Mm.
know, the repercussions that I would have to deal with at home.
Bring
So,
home, yeah.
yeah,
I want to inject something here, Delbert, and Pablo, and then Pablo coming afterwards. Um, do you remember 1980 youth camp, student camp,
Mhm.
where we had
Yes,
the work study program? Yes,
yes,
and you had an influx of, I mean, almost every student
yeah,
came out to that. And
yep.
then 1981, when we had the student camp, more students
Mhm.
came out, the youth camp.
Yeah.
People came out, youth and students came out to that camp.
Yeah.
Every school that was housing was filled to capacity. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a sort of a excitement from 1980 to 81, from the student
Mhm.
camp to the youth camp, right?
Yeah.
There is when school on vacation, almost every student and youth was involved in that youth camp. We had teachers teaching during the day, and they go in the field and plant the
Yeah.
banana and the nutmeg outside, right? So you
Yeah.
have that production, you learn it in classroom, and then go right out in the field afterwards and apply that. So
Yeah.
those things need to come back. We need to draw
Yeah,
students
you have to give
of
young
the
people
elements
stuff
and
to
put
do.
them.
You have to.
And
You
you have to
have
have
to.
the right people that want to see it happen, because that's one of the ways you can curb a lot of the violence that is happening in our country today. That's one of the ways.
Well, well, well,
One
the
of
person the person who ran those youth camp is still there in Grenada, and he's available, and he loves young people,
yeah.
and he's the master at motivating young people in
Mm.
terms of giving direction, in terms of instilling certain work values. I know he helped me greatly in those days, and he's still there, and he's
I
still
mean,
available to work with young people.
Dr.
He
Didiko's
might be a
Jews,
very good he might be a very good resource for
yeah,
for the country to tap into right now.
Dr. Didiko's Jews was part of that. You
Yeah,
had Paul Gordon was part of that. Montgomery Alexander,
yeah.
you have Bogo was part of Bogo.
Tan Bartholomew was the general camp director.
Yeah, so all of them, all these
Yeah,
people was part and parcel of everything. And
yeah.
we could do this again. It could be done. It could be done. I don't think there is not. I think people have I heard it said, these rebel people and them again. But the it is what it is, right? The best result of development came
You take
during
what was good and take what was good and you
use it,
duplicate it.
and make use of it. The Center for Popular Education was a great thing. And I heard somebody saying, "Great, have a high literacy rate." I'm like, really, and we have more people today can't read and write. Young people can't read and write today, and
Yeah, I find that strange, man.
very strange. And I think if that's the case, we'll go back to basic, go back to the drawing board, and start doing the same thing. Get that level of volunteerism activity again, where people could come from work and go and volunteer to teach. Do some community work. Like Pablo, have a session in the evening for young people.
Mhm.
If you have to pay him to do it. So you bring people in, and we social people in to talk to those people and to have sessions with those young people in the evening where they could come and learn something. Even though it's a fishing session, how to can fish, how to because you have to get feed, but how to prepare it and have something, probably how you crafting. He could probably teach that skill, to somebody. When he's gone, somehow somebody could pick him and do it. Dressmaking, they involved there women's cooperative doing dressmaking behind it. If he's not there, reactivate those things. Get young women to come and crochet and to teach and to share their experiences. Draw these people out of the elements and bring them into the space. Violence could be violence. I tell you something. I think sometimes some people just want the violence so they could go ahead and do what they want to do for themselves.
It benefits people.
Right? So it's an investment to have violence in some societies. Like, to me, I remember before I bring Pablo back on, I remember a couple years ago a young lady got shot downtown. Yes? By accident or whatever. But I do believe it was an accident. And then they investigating. Then they found out that the gun that shot the young lady was belonging to a police officer that trained police officers. He lived in one area of the city and he had a full apartment rented where he stole his guns. And one gun missing for how long ago was the gun missing? You didn't know your gun missing all this time. You know what I mean? So for me, I think there's always an element of people in our society that prey on those things for profit. Yes?
So maybe we have to go back to licensing cutlasses before they are sold to the general public, right?
Well, you never know.
We have a cutlass violence problem in Grenada. I mean, when you walk to Grenada, you see a lot of young men with one arm. One arm.
Somebody chop the arm out.
Yeah.
I before Pablo, yeah, come on in.
Yes. Well, two things that were mentioned there I want to touch on before I go off on a tangent. One, your mention of some of those things that were done in terms of going out there in the garden, going out there to do farming, to plant stuff, and so remind me of the Carrier Tree to Carrier Coup project. Okay, back in the 70s, by the Gary administration.
Yeah.
You had young people from different schools.
Yeah.
In Carrier Coup during the August holiday to plant trees in the south of the island. Yeah. There had been an initiative that was started under the previous NDC administration regarding the replanting of spice, the spice project, and the model was going to be the Belvedere area. They were going to start planting a spice grove going back into Birch Grove. In fact, the then Governor General was involved in that and was very instrumental in that. And he was the one planting the first tree. Okay. So probably we can return to that because Grenada is the Isle of Spice. And that Spice Grove, because that is one of the main routes that visitors travel, especially the people who come on the cruise ship. They come to Gove and then they travel over the hills through the Belvedere area to get into Grande Town and all of that. That was supposed to play a role in sensitizing our visitors and so regarding our spice and all of that. So that is something I think that can be considered. The issue of reading with our young people. Brother Delbert, as you know, your nephew teaches in TAMCC. And I've had it from him on sound authority that he has students coming to him from secondary school with how many passes and they cannot read properly. The level of comprehension is very lacking. And one wonders, how does that happen? that you have students coming out of secondary school with X amount of passes, X amount of CXC passes, and the reading and comprehension is totally inadequate for tertiary education.
Yeah.
How do we get to that? And that is something that we need to get to the bottom of and be able to address. Speaking of going off on a tangent, here I go. Now, you know, there is a tendency to say, oh, they have to politicize everything, they have to politicize it. In my books, everything is political.
Yep.
Of course.
It doesn't have to be partisan. We have to be able to distinguish between a partisan political position and something that is political.
Yes.
Because politics is about government and governance.
Yes.
And if you do not have adequate government and governance, and government that looks to build the institution that is supposed to direct and guide the operations and function, if that is missing, if that is lacking, then you have a breakdown because the fish rottens from the head.
Yeah.
Okay. So the government has to have the political will to address those issues. And the government is not supposed to take positions where, well, it is what it is, and people need to make a living, and so on. So you just leave it to go on as it is. And you encourage it. You have to address it. I would say, though, that in addressing it, you don't have to take a heavy-handed approach. But what is required is to consult with the people in a manner that you get them to appreciate where you want to take the country. That you get them to appreciate how going down a particular road, how implementing certain things, certain standards and so will ultimately enhance their own operations and contribute to their livelihood in a meaningful way. And I think that is critical. We have a situation where we've had an administration that contributed to and partook and directed the breakdown of the institutions that guided our country.
Absolutely.
A video, a clip from our parliament has been making the rounds recently, where our present prime minister was taking the present leader of the opposition to task, the former prime minister, on the way he treated with certain things. So the way he treated with the public workers, the fact that the present security advisor to this prime minister, who had been commissioner of police, what's his name again?
Which one?
The one, no, the one that was commissioner of police under the NDC.
Yeah.
No, the one that was commissioner of police under the NDC and was summarily dismissed.
Yeah, I know. I forgot his name.
Was it
when NNP came into office? He was called up to Shenda, as the prime minister said. He called up to that place. How you call that place in Hapil again? In Shenda, and he was told, "You're not my man," and he was summarily dismissed. He spoke of now deceased, God rest his soul, former commissioner of police Fitzroy Bideau. When NNP had 15 seats in office, he's saying to his officers, I am the 16th member of parliament, and your loyalty is to the Kit Mitchell and his administration. So ultimately, one of the things we are seeing is that you have public workers and you have police officers who are loyalists of the former administration and are behaving in that manner in the conduct of their duties. Yes, you have that situation, and that is a situation that the former NDC administration had faced before, and they've been faced with that again. You have an incident that took place just recently in Guelph, where there was it was part of the 50th anniversary independence celebration. An event was taking place at the Guelph Fish Friday Festival. There was this lady, she was involved in a display of some of the traditional things that we used and so on. And it was a part of the display of the festival, of the event. And you have this young lady who is a known troublemaker, is a known operative of the NNP, was allegedly a concubine of the parliamentary representative, had been involved in, in disruptive behavior at the commissioning of our polyclinic in Guelph and so on. And she put a post on Facebook prior to going down to Fish Friday and attacking this woman. And you have a situation where the police has subsequently dealt with it in a manner where they have targeted the victim and the people who had to rescue the victim from that attack. And they have been involved in enabling the attacker to file contending charges against these people. And all of these things has been, and that individual was on a bond. And when you're in breach of a bond, there's a penalty to pay. But that person have not been taken, have not been made have not been penalized for breach of the bond. And instead of that, you find that these known loyalists, these known officers, these known NNP loyalist officers have been seeking to intimidate those persons who have sought to get adequate redress as a consequence of that disruption that took place at the Guelph Fish Friday Festival. So that political element, yes, and as I said before, while everything doesn't have to be, is not a partisan issue, everything is political, and it comes down to the quality of governance that you have. And when you have had a government that have functioned, because essentially to get a government, you go through a political process. And you have general elections with politicians participating in that general elections. And it is the politicians who become ministers of government and ultimately members of cabinet, where decisions are made. And it is how these people treat with the institutions that are supposed to guide how they operate. And when they are not respecting of those institutions, when the behavior and the conduct result in the breakdown of these institutions, you have the outcomes, some of the outcomes that we have to deal with at this present point in time.
I think you were talking about Commissioner Thompson, right? That was his name, right?
Right, yes. Yeah. And you heard our Prime Minister, he spoke about that. He spoke about Richard Duncan, the fact that he was taken to task, and the former Prime Minister, to him, it was about loyalty to him.
Yeah.
When you're in government, when you're responsible for the government of the country, the governance of the country, it is not about loyalty to you.
At all.
Your loyalty is to the state, and your responsibilities are to the state to ensure that the things that you do and in the conduct of your responsibilities, that you're not seen to be partisan and ill will. But that was encouraged under the former administration, and you have had that leader and that administration in office for an extended period, in fact, for most of the time since independence. So
But
it's
listen,
understandable that
um,
some of the conduct and some of the mindset and some of the values that we now have to deal with have been nurtured and cultivated during that period. And you don't
but
get this thing to be changed overnight. And that is the challenge, one of the challenges that we face.
but Keith's PhD is not in statistics, you know, it's in malicious vindictiveness. So
But given all of that, right, our society is now in a space where we have to repair the damage done. And it's not an easy task to rebuild and to fix that. It reminds me of a particular scripture where this brother was around the king, and he had to Jerusalem would mean a peaceful place, was in ruin, and the Jews was in exile. And he is the man responsible for feeding the king, giving him his wine and everything. He was going to the room, and the king recognized that he was not himself. He was shaking, he was nervous, and the king had to be careful. That man feeding me, that man have some problem, he'll kill two of us inside there. You know what I mean? Whatever he bringing from the drink, I might. So he asked him what troubling him. And he said, look, the walls of Jerusalem have been broken down, blah, blah, blah. You need help. And so he said, okay, fine. And he sent letters to all the people that you pass to go to Jerusalem to let him pass free. He give him timber, he give him all he needed men to go and rebuild. And I think Grenada is in that space right now, where we have a youthful mindset of people that is willing to transform Grenada, yes, and make it better and incorporate everybody. I heard the Prime Minister making utterances of a unified Grenada. And for some reason, some people in the same space with me never heard that kind of those statement. They're still pushing the divisive method of your NMP, your NDC. And the Prime Minister is trying to push a unity thing. Let's build the Grenada together. Let's work together and have Grenada done right. And people still, there's some people who are just bent on division, right? Not seeing the bigger picture. If all of us work together, we have a better Grenada. This 50th anniversary, I think the time is right, is fitting to push that narrative of oneness, one people, one destiny, moving up and going up together. I think that message have to continue preaching at all levels of our society, because that's one of the ways, in my view, you can help transform our society, to help make our society a better place, to incorporate the young and the old, to have to bridge that gap, yes, where people come together and share experiences if we want to build Grenada and take it to the next level. And I think that has to be done. So Pablo made a point about the planting stuff with Gary. And I said this before, not only here in different forums, that the revolution of 1979 did not trash out Gary's productive ideas. They build on it. They make it happen. Yes? Because this thing is not, the work study program is not a new thing if it wasn't conscious enough to understand what was going on in Gary era. A number of things was just a continuum in the PRG. Because Bonacola was here, and he said that the NIS wasn't a PRG project. It was first given and introduced to Gary. And he refused it, and he found out, not that he did not want it, he didn't have the vision, and he didn't have the people working to put them to extract money from them through the scheme, right? That was one. The airport, like Maurice always said, is a long-time dream of our Ghanaian people. Who was at the helm at the time? Gary, right? The housing project. Who started it? Who do it? Gary was the first. He did that. Schools under Gary. More schools was built under Gary than any other government. I can't nobody say. All right. What I get from the US government or the Canada government sponsored. I remember in 1979, 4 junior secondary school fully equipped, modernized at that time was under Gary leadership. The school bus system. I look get kicked out of it for being subordinate, get kicked out of the bus. But Gary introduced a school bus system for trying to get to school. 20 cents You know what I mean? So look at what
I
Gary
used
has done
I used to pay my $7.57 a
a
month.
month, right? So here we are today, and the government who trying to bring things back to order. You still find some people going on Facebook and trying to disrupt the peace.
But I
And the
told
government,
you it's down from 50 now to 5. So we
five
need to,
people, yeah. So we have to continue pushing, and those legislators who are making laws have to be very mindful of we need a new constitution. And I think that would be another thing that had to be spoken of and have a serious discussion about our constitution. Not having a referendum to change certain things. We want a completely new constitution out of the Ghanaian people. Yes, there are things that in this one that is good that we could keep it.
I don't believe in no referendum for a new constitution.
No, I don't believe in that either.
The constitution was imposed on us. In the same way it was imposed on us, it could be thrown out.
Yes. But there's certain things you have to do. You can't just go cold turkey on people, but it's a process. But
no, you put a committee in place to
and fix something, because
but we're not there right now.
But hold on, in Grenada, I am sure most people would agree, except again from the few people who are constitutionalists today, would not agree, and Pablo know those people. I know those people, and right. But you put a committee together and say, look, we're reforming this, we're changing this. Give us 3 to 5 years, and we put this together. Alan Alexander was in Grenada in 1983 to start the constitutional committee to rewrite the constitution for the Ghanaian people. Okay, so I don't think it's a hard thing to do. I think just need the people and task them with that responsibility to get it done and have it done. I'm not gonna sit around here and pretend that it is not wanted. It is needed big time. We need to remove that whole idea of the kingship over us as a people. He's the king of Grenada, and we have to bow and think to his heir and successors. And these are the people who mine, rape, kill all our people.
Brother John, we have a group in the country calling itself, I don't know who these people are, but recently we have seen articles coming from them in one of the local weekly newspapers calling themselves the Monarchist League.
Yeah, I saw that.
Imagine in this dispensation, you have a group in Grenada calling itself the Monarchist League. Yeah. And adoringly embracing the British king as our king.
Yes.
And saying, because of this document, because of certain clause in this document we call a constitution, it automatically makes the British king not, or the swearing to this individual, to the crown, it automatically makes it an oath to the Grenadian king and not to the British king. So when you swear that oath, because of the letter of the constitution, you are not swearing to the British king, although it's the same individual, it is the king of England, it is their heirs and successors, but you are no longer, because of what is written on a document, you are automatically swearing to the Grenadian king and not to the British king. I'm telling you, the times we are living in.
So I saw that. I saw, I think, 2 articles from them. So these people do not belong in the conversation at all. There's no question. I want to be inclusive. I want to hear everybody. But if that's your position, you have no seat at the table, period. Because, I mean, I just found that to be breathtakingly stupid at this point in our lives. I mean, just crazy.
I don't get these people now. I think we have to move to a space where you have to shame them publicly. If it may call out a name. But like I say, everybody has the right to their own opinion, but nobody has the right to be wrong about the truth. Yes? Yeah. And the truth is, they are not our king. Yes? Colonization was not good for us. Yeah? We have evolved out of it, and we have the pressure to free the slaves come at a price. Yes? It wasn't given easily. Yes? I mean, a lot of people lost, but the blood that was shed, the freedom fighters who lost their life in the process, somebody decided we can't continue doing this. Yes? Because it's not in the best interest. Secondly, there was an industrial revolution that was taking place. Yes? So the future was coming towards them, and they couldn't continue doing what they're doing. When we come of no interest to them anymore, there's a shift in the economic activities that had to be incorporated, and they had to make that shift. So that was one of the bases for the emancipation. And even when you talk about emancipation, the freedom of Black people was not totally free. We still had to be subjected to a lot of criticism, a lot of brutality, economic freedom.
But emancipation was not about the British colonies. It was about slavery in the Americas.
Exactly. So that's my point. So the brutality that takes place, even with that, even with the indentured servants program, yes, that was another form of slavery in a nicer way.
Of course.
You understand?
And look at, we talk about, they talk about Hitler and his 6 million people that he eradicated. Nobody talks about Winston Churchill and the 5 million Indians that he starved to death.
Exactly. So
right?
the falsifiers,
a genocidal maniac, but Churchill is one of the world's greatest leaders. And that's another thing. We have to rethink some of these things, right? Well, some of these people that we were told were great. Churchill is a murderer.
But all of them. Yeah, I heard Trump was in an interview last week.
This guy deliberately starved 5 million people on this in India to feed the British population.
Yeah.
He acknowledged it in his own papers.
Yeah. So here we go. Here we are today. And again, the lion have to tell the story of the hunt.
Yeah.
Or the hunter will always be glorified. Yes?
Yeah.
So we have to speak of our experiences, document it, talk about it, and shame them, because Sir Francis Drake was no hero in my view. Okay? It was not. But the Buccaneers was no saints. Yes? So
Africans were sailing around the world long before Drake.
Long before them. Yes? And I think recently we learned last week Saturday, and this platform here, on the heart of the matter, that they have found a remains of a Black man long before Columbus in Natchez.
Natchez, yeah. When they were excavating to build the new hotel there,
and they never put that public knowledge. Yeah. So Columbus come last. Yes.
Yeah.
Black people have been on this place long before everybody else. And most recently, I saw a reshaping of the world map where Central America nicely fit into Africa. So that in essence explains a bit of how the African culture is incorporated in the Central American, South American culture. Yes? Because before the Spaniards really came west, these people was there before them. Yeah. So again, I also learned last week that there was no jumping, there was no Leapers Hill. The Carinago people was the people who fought the British and the French. They was the one. It take place up in Leapers Hill as is.
There's a school of thought that says that the idea, okay, so that the day before that sort of mass jumping occurred, which is questionable now, is that the British knew that the Caribs, there was a festival that they had the day before, and that they were known to drink some heavy homemade liquor, right? That they made out of their corn. And, and the British knew that they were going to be drunk the next day. And that's why they attacked them. Even the location that we call Leapers Hill now, that is not the actual location.
Actually, two locations, we can know not two locations is the right location either.
Yeah. So
yeah,
we have to write our history. But listen, I always say, let's start by renaming our streets. I don't know who's Melville. I don't know. I know Sendell was one of the most brutal governors in the British colonial system. So why do we still have a tunnel named Sendell Tunnel? Let's rename it something else. Yeah. And let's start renaming our school after local, regional, and international Black heroes.
Yeah.
You know? Why shouldn't we have a school in Grenada named after Nelson Mandela or Malcolm X or
Donovan School, you know.
Donovan or
we have a lot of heroes.
Or Mr. Critchlow in Guava, or Mr. Warwood in Chantimel, Kalai John and Mr. Rayburn. We have all these guys who contributed immensely to our education, right? They in essence is responsible for the productive workforce that exists in Grenada right now. Many of us came through that era. And the young people don't know who they are, you know. Some of these, Mr. Duncan, Mr. John from Victoria, Mr. Collington John, I think he was from Victoria. There were just so many, even the ones I disagree with, like Williams, who was the first principal of Waltham Secondary School. I mean, philosophically, I disagree with this man on everything, but he was an influential principal of his era. And I'm not opposed to seeing, you know, the St. Mark's Secondary School renamed after him. He made a contribution, you know.
I think we are looking internally of who we have in our community that do something outstanding for our people. Whether education is sports, you know, just name it. We have a lot of people in Grenada.
Of course.
That is deserving of putting the name up on the streets. I mean, we are Ben Jones Street and Blaze Street and then so we need to continue doing those things. And I think now, more than ever, is the ideal time for us to engage in this conversation, to have our streets renamed, our buildings renamed, you know, and put some, because you see, the whole idea of that, and this is a level of white supremacists that did this. So they will all be remembered. Yeah?
I think about my own village, Chantimel, right? We have had, the school was built in 1957. The first principal was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Reason. I think he came from St. David's or no, I think somewhere in St. Andrews. All right. And then we got our own principal from the village. So I think the school has had either 7 or 8 principals during its existence. 5 of them came from the village. So think about what that did for young people growing up in the village.
Right.
The influence that these who first started, many of them started there as teachers and rose to be principal. Okay? You know, one of the most distinguished person in our village now is a retired principal of the school, you know, Faith Phillip, you know, just the kind of citizen that every village would want to have in their community, you know. So think about the influence that these people had on young people like myself, Mr. Wald, Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Monroe, and the others that followed after him, you know, and how they were in the community, right? They taught in the school. They played sports with us. They organized the groups. They organized the culture groups, the sports group, the debating groups, everything. Those things. What do we do to bring them back? Because we kept a lot of us out of trouble.
We have living legend among us. People who are making contributions. They're still alive, who have made contributions, but still alive. And look at Coach Naka, for example. Right?
Yeah. Oh, look at his series on Facebook the past month and a half.
Right. So
he has to put that into another book.
Exactly. Remember that? You know that a book called Great West Indian one time? we have a book of Great Grenadians. Yes. And so children, even though it's a library edition, we have a community edition. And again, we don't have to wait for a national library. I think every community in Grenada should come together and with the help from the diaspora to have a public library in the community. Yes, and people contribute to do it in books to it, to have a library where people could go in and read stuff, and computers, so people could go in and do the research and stuff in the community. Those things have to be done. I think we have to curb violence by education. That's one of the processes you can do that.
It is the best tool to fight violence.
More educated people, the more liberated people. That's hence the reason why we say education is liberation. And I believe that to the core. The more educated you are, the less violent you could become. However, there are a lot of educated people who are very violent.
Yeah.
Right? And we see that in our governments, in our top G7 nations, they use violence to solve some of the problems, right? By invading and bombing and killing a whole lot of people. And they're educated people. You understand? But from the grassroots up, if we could cultivate the right mindsets in our young people about politics, economics, spirituality, not necessarily religion, but spirituality, we will have a better society. And when people like Pablo and myself and you and others come on this radio station and have conversation like that, we don't get the crowd to listen. But let's say we just talk and cuss and carry on and bring girls with no panties on and talk about them and all this nonsense, we'll have 1,000, 1,500 views. But we are not going to be deterred by that. We're going to continue educating. And I remember a farmer had on his farm had a friend boast about his cows, how they come in every evening for you to go and pull them in, no time to come in. And they come in and feed them when they comes in. So the friend was excited and show up at the farm. 6 o'clock come, no cow coming, 6:31 just strolling in. And the guy said, what happened to the cows? He said, well, today's just a half day, they just don't show up. He said, what are you going to do with the one? He said, I'm going to feed the one that come. So even though it's one person that come, we're going to feed that one person. Because germination starts with one seed. Yeah? And we'll keep planting that one seed every time. So the more, maybe the merrier, but the least could be effective. And we have to keep doing that. We can't shy away from our responsibility of educating people to change the level of thinking. And if we could do that, one person at a time, our job would have been done. Pablo has a show coming up at 2 o'clock, and I know those shows is very influential, informative. Last week was very educational. Again, Friday nights I keep skipping the next 2 Friday nights because I have some engagements, but Pablo had to employ Delbert assistants, Pablo assistants to do the shows for me, and I tried to interview certain people, when I can't make it because I don't want to lose the audience on that show, whether religious or whoever, we bring them on. It's a success story. We want to hear about their stories, how they could influence our people. I think that's one of the things that is lacking. We don't bring those people to the forefront. Yes, those people who have been successful at any level in their life, who are doing businesses, who are stalwarts in the community, but never given the light of day. We have to expose and bring all those people on them. And I'll continue to do that. And Pablo is going to do that. We're continue having the discussion. Because that's the only how, in my view, one of the ways we can help our people recognize that not only people are different hue, and I would say white, European, Caucasian people are the only productive people in the world. If we go through our history, most of our invention, modern and ancient, was created by Black people. Yes? But we don't get the honor for that. Right? It's hidden. And whatever they do outside, they promote themselves as it. If you don't promote our product, you want a white person to project.
I think I know for sure the technology behind GPS was created by a Black woman, but I also think the technology behind some of the algorithms that use in social media, especially TikTok, was also created by a Black woman.
Yeah. I mean, to use a printer or a computer was a Black person who introduced that, make that happen. Or to
blood transfusion.
Yeah.
Vaccination. All Black inventions.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
African, the
basic,
African,
basic things like the ironing board and all of these things that
yes,
we take for granted.
Yeah.
peanut butter.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
hair products.
Mm,
yes,
All of this stuff that this white culture uses and other things that they put, the street lights, for example. You know what I mean? That we take
yeah.
and stop us to stop
yeah,
us, you know?
yeah. Mm.
There's
Oh,
even the whole question of the light bulb.
yeah.
Bell.
Before the minute
Bell
inside of
gave
it.
him took credit for it, but he was not the he stole the invention from
Yeah.
Adam. Yeah,
Exactly. You know, just for let it be burning for 24 hours.
yeah,
That it was put in there by a black person. You
yeah.
know?
Another thing too is that during that dispensation,
Mm,
black people did not have the authority to
yeah.
No, no,
patent many stuff.
Anything. Hmm.
no.
So, so these people just took claim for it. I mean, these people are so brazen and so bold-faced.
Traveling
They
not.
they take they take claim for mathematics and all of these things.
Yeah, yeah.
When you see the Greeks and the Europeans were going into Nubia, going into Africa to study, to
Study.
learn, to
Yes.
learn. When you see that the only structures that
Mm.
stand from that dispensation thousands of years before them are the pyramids. And in order to construct the pyramids, you must have known geometry and calculus and all of
Yeah.
these things in order to
Mm.
construct the pyramids.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in spite of all of the scholarship that exists presently on these matters, okay, you had Dr. Clark, Dr. Benjo Cannon, and all of these people for decades speaking about these things. You had how you call him with they came before Columbus, and all of that information is out there. Our people, because of the conditioning, and it comes back to when you've been conditioned over an extended period,
And
it 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 creates a particular mindset that you remain tied to that, and even in the presence of alternative view, right, or the evidence, yeah, even the facts that show you what the real situation is, people still continue to hold on to it. Speaking
Yeah.
of the renaming,
Mm.
the revolution started that process.
Yeah.
A number of
Mhm.
things were named after Grenadians.
yes.
Yeah.
But no sooner that the revolution collapsed, you find that the administration that came afterwards, they got
Mm.
rid of all of those things. I mean,
Yeah.
in the Guam situation, Cuthbert Peters Park is one of the things that they've kept.
Yeah.
Cuthbert Peters Park was renamed during the revolution.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was Windsor Park.
Yeah. It was
You
Windsor Park.
yeah,
And
it was Windsor Park,
who is Windsor?
and now everybody know Cuthbert Peters Park, but that was
Yeah.
during the revolution time. There
Yeah.
was so many things. That street where your sister used to live, that back street
Yeah.
where anytime Depredin Street is the
Yeah.
main street in Guam, anytime the traffic there's need to divert the traffic, that back
Mm.
street you have to travel on is called Edward Street. It had
Mm.
been renamed Daniel Small Street.
Yeah.
Daniel Small is someone who he was a Gaviite. He was involved in trade union. He was somebody who was very close to T.A. Marichaud,
Yeah.
and that street was renamed Daniel Small Street. No sooner than the revolution collapsed, they got rid of it, and it has been returned to Edward Street. Yeah, so we have
But you see,
that kind of mindset is still so prevalent among
okay.
us.
So you see this controversy in the last couple. Well, I don't know if it's a controversy, but the thing with the the bulletin that was put out by the police department, I refuse to call it a force, that described a suspect as Negro with big mouth, big nose.
Yeah, where that coming from? Yeah.
This is a serious thing. and I commented on my friend Anne, our friend posted about it, and I commented on it that it's, it's part of the colonial mindset, self-hate, inferiority complex. And there's a young lady who I know, and she's fairly progressive, and she told me, no, it has nothing to do with colonial mindset. How did I get from there? Then what is it? What is it that would make you not look at yourself in the mirror and think that you're beautiful or handsome or whatever? So you would describe yourself. So somebody joked that the person who had to write that release maybe was looking at himself in the mirror and he was. But these things matter. They matter. In 2024, in the year of your 50th year of independence, that your police department would put out, in a country that's 98% African American, would put out an all points bulletin describing a suspect as Negro, okay, with big nose and big mouth and whatever eyes and whatever. I mean, just the brazen stupidity of that. I can't get over it.
Oh, Delbert, you live in the US, and understandably, the African American, would come automatically, but we're not African American. I know that was just a slip of the tongue, given the fact that you live in the US, and you're so used to, you refer to people of that origin as African American.
The social mind bending.
I mean, I don't know how many times. I think it only happened to me one time. I got pulled over by the cop. And he told me they were looking for somebody with my description. I'm like, what, you looking for just any black man? He's driving a white Chevy Tahoe, and he's 6 feet, whatever, and he's in real estate. That's what you're looking for? I said, because that's my description. I don't think that's what you're looking for, And then he got mad. And I'm like, well, do what you have to do, but your nonsense is not going to hold up before a judge, because I'm the kind of person who going to use the resources to take this to court. So, and then, once they realize that you're not going to back down and that you speak to them in a firm way, with a certain degree of eloquence, I guess, then they tend to back down. But I just found it really striking that we would have something released by our own police department on one of our own people, and the only way I can see it's the remnants of colonialism. Still eating away at us.
Present again.
Yeah, it's still eating away at us.
What happened to you? In this day and age, you still hear people talking about who have nice hair and who have good hair. And who have
Imagine that. Imagine that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We refer to people of lighter complexion as having a fair complexion, and some, fair-skinned people.
Pablo, I was traveling 2 weeks ago on a bus with a gentleman, and we had a conversation going on, and he keep referring to himself as the lighter one among all the children. Making it yeah. And I'm thinking, like, brother, you realize what he's saying? Because for me, I see him as a black person. I don't see him as a lighter skin. I don't know who. I meet the gentleman to begin with. I want to see the black man sitting next to me, but he continued to reference he's of a lighter hue.
Because that's important to him. The fact that he that's like the complexion. Right? Yeah.
So to him, that was the gateway. His skin to get in to moving up in society. But then he had a harsh reality where he had to deal with other people that don't recognize when he moved.
They just see him as another black man.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I often said to my so-called religious folks. The white man don't care if you're a Baptist, a Pentecostal, a Seventh-day Adventist, a Muslim, a Guardian. They don't care what your religion. They see you as a black person and they're going to treat you as such.
Yes, yeah.
You understand? So the whole idea of your religion doesn't matter to them. Because they themselves are also from the same religious culture, right? And they'll burn your church down even though they keep theirs open.
Of course.
Because you're a Christian, because you're black. You understand? They don't care. Because you got a white Pentecostal, but burn a black Pentecostal church down.
Yeah.
There'll be white Baptist, but burn a black Baptist church down. Your religion doesn't matter to them. All the concern is that you're black and you can't survive, we can't incorporate into our society. And even though you build a community for yourself, they're progressing for yourself, they will burn it down. You understand me? I think Dallas Airport was a striving community, black influential community. They get rid of it and put the airport there. Anyway, black excellence is, they will kill it. They will kill it. If you're doing something good as a black person, they're influencing people, they will kill you. They're making sure that you don't make it, and you don't educate your people. I heard an interview with a guy talking about why they had to get rid. You can't afford for American people, I think Moise made that point too, to be influenced what happening in Cuba. Because here you have Cuba, right? You have more doctors per capita than any country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You can't let American people embrace that ideology, that belief, that system. You have countries that is less fortunate than us, but they can have free education and free healthcare for the people, and we can't have it. We can't allow that to happen in America. You understand? So anyway it happens, I see it happen, they kill it. They don't want that so-called virus to come to their shores because they're gonna have a rude awakening. And for that,
and you demonize that kind of approach as socialism and communism.
Mm.
Yeah, and that is so bad.
Yes,
there's a class warfare battle coming for the United States. I don't know if it's going to happen in our lifetime, but it's coming. We are going to face, because it has just become too unequal, you know.
But there's no middle class in the United States again. There's a rich and poor.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It has become too unequal, you know. The middle class has been gotten rid of, you know.
Yeah, there's no middle class in the United States.
Look, I think it was George Carlin, the comedian, who used to say that the reason for them maintaining the middle class was to show you that if you don't stay in line, what you could be if you miss 2 paychecks. They keep the poor just in case to inform you.
Yeah.
So you, I forgot how he had this brilliant way of putting his jokes together.
But he's good. He's right. He's watching competition.
He was saying that they keep the poor to scare the middle class into making sure they work, 80 hours a week.
Yeah. Look, man, let me tell you something. The system is what it is. I heard someone said, why are we paying tax? The government always printing money.
It doesn't work that way.
You know what I mean? So why post taxes? When you could print money and you could pay for all the facilities that you are charging us for. You could pay for garbage collection for yourself. You could do that, you know what I mean? Why? So why in society that we live in? And basically, you need taxes. Government have the money. They pay you, and they print it. I remember it was in the 80s when Trudeau printed certain money. People say, oh God, can I go bankrupt? Can I still survive today? Nothing to teach. You understand? So
Canada is one of the countries that probably have one of the greatest trajectory for upward growth in this century. Because here's a country that's enormously wealthy in natural resources, oil, timber, wheat, all these other things, right? And Canada is larger in geographic size than the United States, and has what's the population in now? About 45 million, something thereabout?
Almost 5 million people, yeah.
Okay. So it has tremendous potential for growth, and you're not going to get that growth from natural birth. So you're going to have to import citizens.
That's what they're doing. Canada importing 80,000 people per year. right, into the country, right? I have seen where I used to live, past to go to certain place right now. They was green, just forestry.
Yeah.
Now it's houses
It's
upon
all suburban communities. Yeah.
not this. All the Greenland. Now they have a big fight over the green spaces. Right?
Well, they have to do that. They have to do that to continue to fund their social insurance system.
Yes.
Because if you have an aging population and you don't have enough young people coming into the workforce, that system could go bankrupt.
Well,
anyway,
let me tell you something. Right? Just recently, I heard a piece of news, and on the news, the Family Planning Association, Planned Parenthood Canada, and correct me, stand correctly here. Right? They're talking about there is a movement to have more birth control pills circulating among young people, right? For unwanted pregnancy. Now you have a country that is not growing. Why would you want to introduce birth control instead of education, sex education? Why birth control is the best method? Yes? So it's about controlling population. And they certainly trying to push that agenda so young girls will take that thing to sterilize themselves and therefore can't have no children. You understand? So my thing is, let people be who they want to be. You had a sexual revolution that took place in this late 50s, early 60s. Let it be. You know, they didn't turn to bad tournaments, politicians today, doctors and nurses today. You know what I mean? And then let's plant more food. Yeah, the world will never run out of food. I guarantee you. They don't have food that seems to be thrown away in restaurants and grocery stores. Yeah? You tell me you can't feed the population. There's too much of food on the planet. There's a lot of water. A lot of everything. God never make a limited world. It's an unlimited world, unlimited resources. What we need is more opportunists. I talk about real opportunities to take advantage of the opportunity that is in the world. There's undiscovered, there's things that could be done. There's more food that could be planted. You're cutting out farmers' aid and stuff and force them out of production and in the soil and bring in the lab. Yes? So you get meat coming from the lab. You got fruit coming from the lab. You have fish coming from the lab. You know, less and less fishermen going out. You have more fish farms than fishermen going out in the water now. Right? Talk about technology. Let us eat what God provides for us. Let us do that. And I mean, technology will increase, yes, but you can make meat in a lab and tell me it will taste good, the same texture. You know what I mean? I see people making lettuce with some chemical and wrap it and sell in plastic to sell. What are we eating? You know, so our society is decaying, and we need some sensible people to knock it back in place. Yes, but I think you'll get a lot worse before you get better. And small communities, wherever we are, it's imperative that we don't get like in Grenada, for example, and the rest of Caribbean countries. Let us stick to our soil. Let us continue to plant our fruits that bring food, seeds after its kind, and replant them and have our culture and agriculture being part of our development, and let us depend less on foreign inputs. Bill Clinton apologized to the Haitian people for cutting up and messing up the rice industry just to facilitate the industrialized world. Yeah, so they could depend on them for food, where these people could have feed themselves, take it away from them, mash up the rice industry, you know? And this guy is still walking to talk about it and going to jail for it. Can you imagine that? They confessing their crimes in public and nobody tell them to task for it. But in Africa, one man serve against you, you take him to the Hague and try for crime against humanity. This is a big crime against humanity. But nobody want to charge them for it. They give themselves immunity from going to the world court. We have to fix that.
Brother John, it is coming up. It is well past 2:30 my time now, and
20 minutes to
at the top of the hour is when I start the heart of the matter. So I will have to take my departure to make my final preparations. But before I leave, I want to touch on the point that's being made here as to how technology has become an inevitable part of our function. However, we are allowing it, like how the Bible says, money answereth all things, but the love, not money is the root of all evil, the love of money is the root of all evil. Technology has become imperative, more or less, to our function, to our modern society. What is happening, on the other hand, is that we are allowing the technology, the way we embrace the technology, we are allowing it to destroy and replace our humanity.
Yeah.
Because as a consequence of the technology, the relationship, our human relationships and interactions are being nullified and made redundant to be replaced by technology. And as you know, we are social beings.
Very much so.
And with the loss of that social interaction, we become like inanimate objects. We are losing our humanity as a consequence of it. And that too is a contribution to the indifference and the lack of appreciation that is demonstrated by our young people towards another human being and another human life. So it comes like killing somebody is like crushing a cockroach. You're indifferent, you treat with it in the same manner. Yes? And that is something that we have to be very careful with. Just as we have to be careful with the fact that the love of money becoming the root of evil, in the same way we have to be careful with how we treat with the technology, our embrace of the technology, and where we use it as a replacement for our humanity, for our social interaction, for the way we treat with each other on a day-to-day basis. I close here.
We've become slaves of the medium, you know. I remember not too long ago, I probably had 100 plus of my friends and family phone number memorized. Now I can't even remember my daughter's number. I can't. I have to go to the phone and look it up every time. So in a way, it has made us dumber. You know, it has dumbed us down, and the key to it, Pablo, as you say, is the humanity. It has robbed us of our humanity.
We're losing our humanity. You know, so that's it. I gotta take my leave of you. On,
I see you have my cousin.
Yes. We'll be having, you know, and that's another thing, right? It makes a point, because here you have it. You know, I'm a known NDC advocate and operative. You have Brother Baptiste, who is a known GULP loyalist.
Yes.
In recent time, he has had issues. He has been giving voice to certain issues with the present administration and so on. But it doesn't take away from the fact that we're both Grenadians, and essentially we both want what is best for Grenada.
Yeah.
And in order for us to do that, it is essential that we have these conversations.
Yeah.
We may not necessarily agree on everything, and people behave as though unity is supposed to mean that you have to agree on every single thing.
Yeah.
That's not what unity means.
Yeah.
It means us having those discussions and essentially agreeing on what is the best option of all of the ideas and perspectives that may be on the table. Which ones will serve us best if we are to grow and if we are going to develop? And it doesn't take away from, people having the right and the entitlement to share whatever the sentiments and the perspectives are.
Yeah.
So it will be Brother Baptiste and I having looking at the essence of Sir Eric Matthew Gary and his contribution to our development and to
Well,
our history.
he's going to have a field day with your uncle.
Oh, definitely, and we'll be touching on all of those under this development prospect. So I'll see you guys later on. Bye bye.
All I say is bring back Uncle Easter Water Parade. That's my.
Here you go. All right, then later.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Pablo. Thank you again, and it has been a pleasure having you here with us this morning as usual.
All right.
Yeah, man. So Pablo and Delbert, thank you guys so much. Again, we had to continue monitoring what happened in Grenada in terms of the gun violence, and we'll be able to talk and bring some sense to it. I am hoping to start the show tonight, a talking point tonight, but I have another engagement that I remember was today start. I made a commitment to that in the East End, so I got to go to that. If I remember earlier, I'll make proper arrangement for that to happen. So probably you could take on the show and but I don't know.
We'll figure it out, man.
Yeah. So I'll do that for next week. However, next week I think we're going to talk about the same and in the same vein. We have match coming up. There'll be on the 13th of March, the Wednesday night, we'll be having the revolutionaries as usual celebrating. Like I think Dr. Who is that? I can't remember who the speaker, but it'll be here on GEM-FM. We'll be having the lecture taking place right here, the match of the lecture taking place here on GEM-FM on the 12th. The number of activities that kicked off already in Grenada. The quiz competition is happening right now, and there's a collaboration between Cuban trained doctors, Grenada, with some American doctors. We're doing some medical work in Grenada, St. George's, St. John's, St. David's, and St. Andrews and St. Patrick's. So that is part of the March 13th celebration that will taking place as well. So a number of things is happening. I'll be posting them on GEM-FM so a person could see it and govern themselves accordingly. Attend as much as they can in Grenada, as much as they can to listen to whatever going to happen here on GEM-FM. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a plum pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege being here with us. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But again, I'm going to try to get up early next Saturday morning.
All right.
Yes. All right.
It's true, I am dreadlocks are not your canker, me say. Long live the a long time never seen a regret so Babylon fall not to trade locks up free up for hungry. One of us done not to trade in a free race. Not be flying high, survive. Not be flying high, jumping over giant. Not be trade locks so
A PRA that was done by Logie and Magnificent Six back in 1979. Natty Dread in a PRA. The number one song that came out right after the Green Revolution of 1979 is 45 years ago. And the memories still live on. Education is a right, not a privilege. And therefore, the revolution embarked on an education program to ensure that all Grenadians are educated. Hence the reason why the Center for Popular Education was introduced, the CPE program, Educating to Liberate. And this is Gem FM, Young Revolutionary. We continue the process of educating to liberate. Yes. Not dread. Yeah, the Rastafari movement was very much involved in the process of removing Eric Mattigeri from power. And coming up at the top of the hour will be Mr. Michael Baptiste. All right? Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to flip the script and allow Mr. Pablo to come on in. So, have a blessed evening, everybody. And join me right back in 5 minutes, right here on Gem FM.